All right. We have a great question from a community member. Let me go ahead and pull it up. All right. So this member says, I'm at 15K months pretty consistently, but I cannot break through to the next level no matter what I do. I've hired the strategist, I've done the funnels, I've got the tech in place. And honestly, I'm starting to think like it's an energy thing. Like my field is the problem. But here's where I get stuck with the detachment thing because I've heard this before, let go of the goal, trust the universe, detach from the outcome. But I'm a business owner. I have a team, I have expenses. How am I supposed to just not care where the money comes in? That feels irresponsible, honestly. So, what does detachment actually mean in the practical sense? Because I can feel I'm missing something. All right, this is such a great question. So, yes, there is a lot of misconception about detachment. And a part of that is because each person in the way they detach and let go may be slightly different. So, I'm going to share what has worked with me and all of my clients. Like, this has pretty much been what's worked for everyone. So, when we think about detachment, right, we want to think about what is the ultimate goal that we are desiring. So, if you are wanting ultimately more money, right? If that is the end goal, and maybe that's not the end goal, but maybe it's a certain amount of clients, maybe it is a certain the money coming in through a certain avenue. But again, at the end of the day, what is the ultimate goal, right? Let's say it's you want to break through the 15K. Now, here is where I will see people with detachment, like where they kind of get confused. So they think that it means just let go, not think about it, don't set any goals, don't take any aligned action, just kind of believe it'll happen and then just go lay on a couch or float in your pool, right? Like that's not exactly what detachment is. So we always want to have a goal, an intention. It doesn't have to be like a super strict goal, but more of like an intention, something you are moving towards. What is your desire? And we want to have that intention with the aligned action in place because you want to think about money as think about it like a hose. Okay. The money is flowing through the hose, right? Just like water would, the money is flowing through it. Now, with no goal, no desires, no intention in place, the hose is not being held by anything. It's flying everywhere. It becomes really chaotic. You're unexpected. The money is not going to flow in the amount in the way that you want, right? Everything is just getting sprayed, but not necessarily what you're wanting to get the money coming into, right? You want it into your bank account, not all over your friends and everywhere around you. You want it to go into a certain place. So that intention is going to really kind of just hold the hose in place. Now, where people will go too far to the extreme is they can do a few things. One is they can get really hyper obsessive over the thing and think about it constantly, right? You hear about like think and it will happen, think rich and you will become rich, just everything where like your mind is everything. But we can flip it to an obsessive compulsive where it's just like all you're thinking about and it's driving all of your decisions. It's driving, morning when you wake up to when you go to bed, you're constantly thinking about it. What that does is literally just like strangle the hose, put a kink right in it. It is where you become so obsessive. You put all of this pressure and low vibrational frequency because you're noticing it's not here yet. It's still not here. Oh my gosh, I don't have it. Why don't I have it? What's wrong with me? And all of a sudden, you start going into lack, scarcity, doubt, fear, anger, shame, any of those lower vibrational frequencies, right? They are very dense and they're going to put a lot of pressure onto the hose and it kinks it. So the fine line with detachment is being able to hold it enough where you can direct the flow of the money and where you want it to go, but hold it so where you don't kink it, right? So that's the fine line. So what we need to look at is what is the ultimate goal? Let's say it's the money, right? And a lot of people will say, okay, yes, I want the money, but it has to come in through this channel. Maybe it's through this business or through this offer. That's where I will see a lot of people will be like, okay, well, I am tired of doing one-on-one and I want to do more group programs, but like the group program isn't selling out. And then so what'll happen is their one-on-one will stop selling out because they're putting so much pressure on the group to sell that they're not letting the money to come through the path of least resistance. And this is where the detachment really comes into play because you have to keep in mind that money flows through the path of least resistance. So if you, let's say, have a lot of fears or limiting beliefs or spiritual contracts that make it, or having a group offer is more resistance, more of, there's negative or lower vibrational frequencies that are impacting it, where you don't believe in yourself, you're afraid of getting refund requests, anything that can clog up that through your energy or your mindset around it, or maybe even you don't even have the structure set up correctly. Or the structure is burning you out. Like there's so many things that can play a role into this, right? That's already kinking the flow of the hose. And then when you say, okay, well, I only want it to come in through this way, you shut off the flow of the money to you completely. So what you want to do is you have the intention, right? You say, I want to make, let's say, $25,000 a month, right? That'll get you over that $15,000 hump, whatever the goal is. And I'm going to allow the money to come in through the path of least resistance while I clean up any resistance I have to the path that I really want it to come through. So this would be, looking at your mindset, looking at your beliefs, looking at your structure, looking at your energy, looking at your nervous system, cleaning all of that up while you're still allowing the money to come in. Now, one of the things that you want to keep in mind is if it's like, okay, this big group offer isn't selling, one way is pulling a new hose, right? Having an additional stream of income come in. Maybe you're not selling the big program that you have, but maybe smaller, low ticket offers can come in while you're holding this, big hose. You're adding in more hoses. It can be in like looking at also your significant other or spouse or investments, other ways that money is coming through you, and not saying, no, this doesn't count. No, that I don't want it to come in through my husband. I don't want it to come in through investments. It only can come in through my business because that's how I feel self-worth, or whatever your reason, right? And then when you recognize the money gets to come in to me through the path of least resistance, I'm going to allow that. I'm going to be grateful for it. I'm going to keep making the decisions and taking the action for those streams of income to come in. I'm holding the container with the intention while I clean this up. Right? And when we have obsessive compulsive, or like where we just get so energetically tied to a result from a specific offer or through a specific channel, right? We want to think about, and this is where I say, pull in those other revenue streams. We want to think about, okay, what would I have less resistance to, but is in the same field? This is where lower ticket, this may be bundles, this may be other ways that you maybe don't have so much resistance towards, but you're saying, okay, I am going to, instead of focusing on this big offer that has to sell, I'm going to focus on some other things that is going to support this while I continue to do the work. So it's not about just letting go and not caring, right? I see this a lot. It translates and is very similar to like when a woman is trying to conceive, right? As somebody who struggled for over a year and a half to conceive my son, the amount of pressure I put on myself, right? And you'll hear this where people will say like they were trying for years and then all of a sudden they stopped trying and then they got pregnant, right? For myself personally, it was the month we were like, okay, this is the last month we're trying, and then now we're going into the steps and surgery, and we were going to start looking at infertility situations. And that just like, okay, we're going into the infertility. We're going to start, I was going to get endometriosis surgery. We're going to like that's just what our next step is. All of a sudden, the pressure released. Those negative feelings, the shame. I used to walk around being like, am I not meant to be a mom? I used to have really like, negative feelings about myself, about like, why can't I get pregnant? And just all the pressure of timing everything. And finally, I was just like, you know what? Fuck it. And then we got pregnant that month. So being able to say, I'm going to bring in the money through all of the streams that I can, through the paths of least resistance. I'm going to let go of the pressure I'm putting on it for it to look a certain way. And I'm going to almost like distract myself. Like one of the things that helps a lot of people also is to focus on something else. So if one offer isn't selling, start selling, looking at a different offer. That's where the bundles, the low ticket stuff come in. Or maybe it's like, okay, I'm just going to keep selling one-on-one. Or I'm going to fill in the blank in whatever would distract you from the hyper obsession that's happening when you're unable to detach, right? Letting that distraction bring your mind to something that gives you joy, gives you peace, lets you be happy, raises your vibration, takes the pressure off the hose while you're still allowing money to come in to pay for your, your business, your expenses, your team, all of those things. So we want to be able to set the intention. We want to know exactly like what we're going to do, the aligned action. But as soon as we start to put too much pressure that the money slows or we find ourselves hyper fixating, we want to look at other additional streams of income that have less resistance. We want to allow all of the money to come in. So through investments, through our significant other, through whatever other streams you have. Maybe you have your job or maybe you have something else going on. And then we want to distract ourselves so we can be in a high vibrational state. Okay, this isn't avoiding. This is give your brain something else to focus on. Relax, recognize, and believe that the universe is supporting you. Keep taking that action, and then it will come through. Okay, so let me know if you have any additional questions around detaching, if anything didn't make sense, or if you'd like me to go deeper into anything I talked about. Go ahead and do that. And if you want to be able to ask a question and receive my answer from it, I'm going to go ahead and put the form that you can ask your question in down below in the description. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a great day.